The shave we have today is part 4 in an unintentional science experiment. 3 shaves ago, I used this brush with tap water. I swirled it and loaded from this soap puck, Stirling for him. Pretty new. Been used a few times. Now it's been used a couple more. And I swirled for 30 seconds. It wasn't enough lather. Swirled for 10 seconds in the middle of the shave. Still wasn't enough lather, nowhere near. It performed because Stirling is slick, and so protected me with minimal lather. But it was by no means creamy. It didn't have any body. I later discovered that my water supply had been contaminated a little bit, our local area here. And so that could be the issue. When I squeezed out the end of the shave, the lather from this brush, it was many times when you do that, it's kind of thick and creamy and perfect and wonderful. But this was a little bit soupy, and so I wondered if maybe this brush was holding too much water in it. So maybe that was my issue with allowing it to have too much water. I treated it normally, but maybe that's it. This guy's been soaking for a couple hours, just like the preparation I would have done 3 days ago. I'm going to duplicate that same shave, at least the lathering parts of it, except instead of tap water, we're going to use distilled water to build the lather. And it's been soaking in distilled water. So first time was tap water, possibly contaminated. Now distilled water. So let's see if this guy, if 30 seconds is fine to load. So what I'm going to do, I shook it out as much as I could for the photo, for the YouTube thumbnail and all that stuff. So just going to do my shake out of the water. Get it to kind of where I usually like it. There we go. Not too much water. Oh, and feather blade. Looks like this is the 25th use of this feather blade. I'll show you the razor we're going to use in a minute. I've already splashed my face with water just to kind of moisten the hairs and things like that. Let's start our 30-second load. There's 45. So we're going to go to 315. So let's just see what happens this time. Because I verified it. I looked at some of my other videos and I had no problems with a 30-second lather on Stirling, giving me enough lather to do the job. So that wasn't the issue. And this looks different than before. So I'll bet it's just the water. Who knows? And there we go. I went 2 seconds over, but that should be all right. Okay. Gonna rinse the tub here, the sides, the threading, so that I can get the thing back on easily. Nice light scent. Versace Pour Homme is the inspiration. Cologne based, just a happy little scent. All right. So let's see. I'm going to press a little harder than I usually do, at least at some points during this lather building, so that we make sure that we get soap up into the bristles and make sure we don't end up with any excess water up there that's going to flush our lather out. This brush has been terrific in terms of break-in. This is maybe the 9th use of it, something like that. Oh yeah, this lather looks 100% better than before. Also, the first time I just shot in the whole syringe, 2 teaspoons right away. Maybe Stirling needs it to be added slower. I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon. So this one has broken in. It was very comfortable, like within 4 uses, something like that. Very nice. It's similar to the Simogs in that way. The Stirling boar that I have is slow to get soft. Worse yet is the Omega and 10098. But I say worse yet, but I mean some boars just take a while to break in, and that's not good or bad unless you just happen to need it to break in really quickly. This soap looks a lot better than before, so I'm going to guess the issue is just the matter of fact, why don't I go ahead and dump the other, maybe I should have dumped both teaspoons in there pretty quick. Refill the syringe there, but I'm not putting any of that in there yet. So the razor I'm using today, show it to you. It's already loaded up with the feather. It's an Aristocrat Junior. And you can date it by seeing that it has end caps there. It doesn't have the diamond base plate. It's got a flat base plate right here. It's got the knob, and then there's not another ring that's about 5 millimeters above this gap right here. And so that differentiates it with some of the other Aristocrats in the vintage UK Aristocrat series. It seems to match the photos, and it looks exactly like the photos of the 51 or the 53. Now the numbers for those were set numbers, they're not razor numbers. So they would actually, it's kind of convoluted for us, but it's what they did. They actually put the same razor in different sets because it was a different box, came with different blades, you know, different stuff. And so this was either a 51 or a 53, just depends on which box it came in. And that box is long since gone, so it will forever be a 51/53. The document I was reading said that it was a little bit more mild than like the Rockets, and that's kind of cool because I used a Rocket just yesterday, so I'll be able to compare and see if that's true. Lather looks pretty good. I'm a little cautious about adding more water. I've pressed down a little bit more than I usually do just to make sure I got up into all the areas of the brush. Hopefully, I think it's about to be as good as it's going to get here. Looks all glossy and wonderful. Do a little finger test here. Oh yeah, nice and slick. That is not the same feeling I got 3 days ago. Now, yesterday I redid the lather with dirty water. But here's the thing. The day before that, they had fixed the water problem at the source, installing a new filter, and they were telling people that your water will gradually improve as the impurities work their way through the system and down into your drains and stuff, and then everything before it gets to your house will start to get cleaner and cleaner as time goes by. And yesterday's lather wasn't all that different than a lather made with distilled water. And so I think I missed my opportunity to get a hold of some of the real dirty water. I think it just must have been the water. All right. Not a whole lot of lather, but it should be plenty to do the job. Also, this might be a little concentrated. I might get it on my face and realize I need to hydrate a little bit, so we'll see about that. All right. Before I forget, let me show you a couple of things here to look for. Take the feather out. So the center bar here that aligns the blade, it doesn't have the T pieces on the end. It's got a notch right there, and that was a trick. With this new blade system, they had a little container, and you would use the notch to pull the blade out of the container. You would never have to touch the blade yourself. It's kind of a safety gimmick. And so it didn't stick, but we are left with lots of these notched razors to deal with. The ones that had the T, I love them because they just hold the blades in perfect alignment. It's terrific. So anyway, here's the top view of the base plate that is flat and not that diamond shape. So that's something to look forward to, look at when dating these guys. The base plate right here, you don't see any rivets. This is an end cap rather. This is an actual end cap covering. Wait a minute. That looks like a solid. That's a solid end cap piece. Wow, that's not a plate. That's not an overlay, you know, glued in place or welded in place. It's a solid piece. How about that? Nice. And then this particular one has a number right here, like 40030 or something like that, patent number. And of course it says made in England on the bottom side of the base plate. Something else to look for, it's got a slightly rounded end right there. It's also not hollow. This is a similar handle to the 40s style Super Speed, which is a much less expensive razor. And the 40 style definitely has the diamond base plate there. I believe that's about it. So let's put the feather back in. And so this is the first time I'm using this one, and so I've already looked at the alignment. I've looked at the blade as it goes down the safety bar to make sure there's no waviness or unevenness, thinner on one side, thicker on the other, and do that for the other side as well, obviously. And also checking the corners for bending. It usually doesn't happen as much with these solid bar razors, but if you get an open comb razor, it's definitely something to look for. Sometimes it can still be bent and still give you a fine shave. I've heard people recommend not to try to bend them back yourself because that's a real easy way to have it break. So do some research before you bend it back yourself to make a good decision about that. All right. Balance point is about where I like it, a little bit backed off of the head. All right, let's lather up. A little water on the face. Sorry about that. A little water in the throat. Nice scent coming up to meet my nose while I'm doing this. I'd say it's a 4 out of 10 strength. It's not super strong. Now it looks good, but this is actually kind of behaving like that other lather. I'm having to keep going back. I wonder if it's this brush. I don't remember having a problem with this brush before. Maybe my next experiment needs to be on the speed of adding water to the Stirling. Maybe if you add it too fast, it takes a while to recover. If you add it slower, it's able to mix it in properly. I don't know, just guessing. This looks like a good lather, even though it took going back to the bowl to get more lather a couple times. All right, first time with this razor. First impression is very good. Just a little bit of blade feel. The neck is going to be the one that tells a better story. Wouldn't say it's not a mild razor though. Not really giving me much audio feedback. It's not chattering at me, anything like that. This lather did fine. Last couple days when this soap did fine making a lather. Last couple days when I scooped out a 1/4 teaspoon of soap, made great lather. And that was with the contaminated water as well as distilled. I do feel like it's got enough blade exposure to ding me and maybe give me a nick or some razor burn if I'm not careful. But it's in a good spot to where I feel like if I do watch myself, I don't have anything to worry about. One of those things where as long as you pay attention, you'll be fine. Rinse. Now that was a little bit on the thin side. And so I am going to, I just wiped away any of the extra droplets that were kind of hanging on my face because of the rinse. Let's go in and get some more lather. Definitely not as much lather as when I used a 1/4 teaspoon of soap. Now, I did use a different brush for that. All right. So maybe this brush has such soft tips that it maybe I have to load for a little bit longer on more firm soaps. So maybe the answer just won't be conclusive about what exactly caused the problem the other day. But I'll keep watching the B10. Really happy with it. Just gets really soft. It broke in quickly. Kind of on my, right now, it's kind of my favorite brush out of the group. And here's the thing. If I'm not wasting a lot of soap, if a lot of soap's not going down the drain, then it doesn't really matter if I have to stir it a little bit more and load for longer, because it's just takes a little bit longer to load as much soap onto the brush as will be needed during the shave. And so I shouldn't think about it as a, well, this is wasting soap. All right, rinse. So you know what I think tomorrow's test will be? I'm going to use the same B10, but I'm going to use the 1/4 teaspoon of soap method with a scooper and a measuring spoon instead of the swirling on the puck method. and I'll use distilled water just like today, and so we'll be able to compare the lathers from each loading method. Looks like I'm going to have enough lather to do the job here. Make sure I get off any excess droplets because this lather is just a little bit on the thin side. So, as it turns out, plenty of lather to do the job in 3 passes. You know, it made me a little nervous. I didn't know if I was going to have plenty or not. But I did. Not much left. And I did not end up adding any more from the syringe. So this is just with 2 teaspoons of water. 3rd pass. Feather blades are often a little rougher on me in, you know, medium aggression or higher razors. And this feather is kind of being that way. It's still, like I said, very controllable. I don't feel like I'm gonna hurt myself or anything, but I do feel like I need to just make sure I watch my angle and pressure and that kind of thing. But what that does tell me is that some of the blades that I have that are not quite as tricky, not quite as rough or edgy, not quite as sharp, that they will be even more comfortable than this one is, which is fine. I don't feel any discomfort right now, no irritation. So it feels like I got to shave, that's all. So that's the 3rd pass. So I'm going to rinse. Really good result. Nice close shave. I just see the tips of some hairs and my trouble spot everywhere else. Feels very good, so thumbs up on that. I showed you the lather, showed you the water. Really happy with this little razor. I like the balance, I like the grip. How about that? This is a user grade one. If you don't know too much about that, because we've got some plating loss there on the knob, and kind of some generalized plating loss right here. You can send some into razors in to have them replated by competent folks. I don't know about the sophistication of doing that with this kind of knurling, this kind of checking pattern that we have there. I don't know if the detail of the replating will kind of get muggy when that might happen, if it's precision enough to do that. But I'm fine with it the way it is. To be honest, I kind of like the history of having it be a little bit worn, got a little bit more personality that way. Hey, I'm about 45 minutes more tired than I was when I left you. We've got the stomach flu passing through our family, and they had to go tend to a situation and clean it up, and so that's what I had to go and do. So 3 out of the 4 of us have succumbed, and so we're back. And I did not apply any post-shave product yet, so that's just proof for Stirling, and how for at least people with my skin type, it's a great soap, great post-shave treatment, I don't feel any tightness or anything. I got a great irritation-free shave. Really happy with the result. No redness, anything like that. I just feel like something kind of casual and easy going. So we're going to go with Lucky Tiger after shave tonic. And I like to shake this one up just a bit. Got like chamomile and calendula and things like that. Nice, easygoing citrus scent. There we go. It is late. Hey, it's almost 5 in the morning. Time to go to bed. All right. So I'm going to try tomorrow the measured amount of this Stirling soap with this B10, and we'll see if there's a difference. And we'll use distilled water just like we used today, and we'll see if it's a difference. And so if I get a lather like I had yesterday or the day before, then we'll know that it's just that this particular brush doesn't seem to pick up as much soap as other brushes do when loading from the tub. And that'll be an interesting a very important piece of knowledge as I use that brush, because I really enjoy it. And so it'll be good to know that I need to load for a little bit longer on it as a custom, as a general rule with that brush, if that's in fact the case. If it gives me just as little of a lather as did today, just enough to get the 3 passes done, then I guess we'll just have to attribute it to the water issues and just leave it at that. Move on to the next thing. All right, sometimes it's fun playing. I got a hobby now where I get to enjoy scents, history, mechanical things like razors, and also science, experiments, that kind of thing. It's a pretty cool little hobby. All right, well, pretty much just going to clean up. See you in a minute. For a few days I was trying an idea of having a bowl on hand in the sink, and my rinses would come from the tap, rinses of my face between passes, and that would serve to fill up and clean away any of the suds that were in that bowl, because for the rinsing of the razor and the cleaning of the razor, I would shake it like that in the water and rinse it out. That worked pretty well. It meant less going to the faucet to turn on the water, and so it was convenient. But what I discovered was a couple of things. I like to take my brush, put it down in my sink, and sling it like that. Get the sling all the water out, and if I sling it up against the side of the water will just spray up against the side of the sink instead of going all over the bathroom. Well, that was harder to do when there's a bowl in there as well. But a minor thing. Then, maybe yesterday, I finished my shave, took the blade out, and I looked down inside, and I saw some water in there. And so since I'm submerging the head and shaking it around, rather than just letting water pour through it and go out, it seemed to me like water could get into the works just a little easier with this submerge method. And so that makes me think I need to give the razors a good shake and stuff to empty them and make sure the water doesn't stay in there. And then I felt like that puts a little bit too much strain on these doors, too much activity and movement and all that. It may have no foundation in reality, but that's just the way it feels. And I don't like that. I'm going to go back to my old way of just going to the tap. And that's what I did today, going to the tap to rinse out the razors as well as give me face water. Oh, and the third thing, the third kind of mini strike against the other bowl was that it was another bowl to clean. I got my lather bowl, and then I also have this the rinse bowl. So I just decided let's skip it, go right to the tap. It's convenient. and it doesn't waste any more water. And so I like it. Go with that. Don't have to clean another bowl. All right, everything's cleaned up. No extra comments. Really happy with the shave. Face still feels great. Puke has been cleaned up. We're all good. So take care, you guys. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I hope there was something here for you. Good night.